I gotta tell you this story, and I may tear up saying it. It was on a Sunday afternoon. We just got through with our Sunday lunch, and then we heard it on the radio that we'd been attacked by the Japanese at Pearl Harbor. Since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan, I said, well, they can't do that to us, we've got to go whip them. A state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire. With the attack of Pearl Harbor, Harry Robin Lediker joined the millions of Americans fixated on defending their country from the Axis forces' quest for global domination. Though he was underage at the time, Robin was ready for the day when the draft would call his name. He wouldn't have long to wait. I was young, I was still 18, I graduated from high school in May, turned 18 in May, was drafted in May, was on active duty in July 1943. I was in the Navy and took boot camp in Farragut, Idaho. I did a lot of marching and went on the water and rowed a boat. We were there for a little bit, and then they assigned me to the hospital corps school. I was a hospital corpsman. After that, they broke us up and sent us overseas. And we sailed to the South Pacific. We sailed to the Fiji Islands. As we were coming into Fiji, I thought, this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. The mountains came right down to the ocean, and it was beautiful. And we got down on the dock, and I thought, boy, this is gonna be nice. We walked down the gangplank, walked straight down the gangplank to another ship, got aboard it, and then we went to Guadalcanal. Now a major base in the Allies' campaign to combat Japan's Pacific conquest, Guadalcanal had been a hard-fought victory, especially for the United States Marines. The brutal 6-month-long battle was the Marines' first encounter with the ferocity of the Imperial Japanese Army. On August 7, 1942, the Allies landed some 11,000 Marines on the shores of Guadalcanal, who in turn began to make quick progress. But just 2 days later, before supplies and additional troops could be deployed to the island, the Allied fleet endured a surprise attack from the Japanese Navy. 3 American cruisers were sunk, another 3 ships badly damaged, and the fleet withdrew from the island. Insufficiently supplied and with no reinforcements, the Marines were stranded, left to face an enemy who was not about to go quietly. But by February of 1943, the Japanese forces were defeated, and the Allies had their first significant foothold in the war in the Pacific. And then I was assigned to a medical supply facility on Guadalcanal. We were right next to a stationary hospital. We supplied them with medical supplies, and any ship that came into the harbor, we filled their requisitions. The only thing I had close to actual combat when we first got there for about a week or 2 on Guadalcanal, there was a plane that came over. It was a Jap plane. He would drop a bomb out in the jungle and then fly off. And the next day he would do the same thing. That went on for maybe a week or 2 weeks. Never heard about him anymore. Although Robin was relatively safe from harm, he would soon experience the realities of war after a fateful encounter on Guadalcanal. I gotta tell you the story, and I may tear up saying it. I was driving down the street one day, and there were 2 guys walking along the street. And I looked at them and I thought, well, I know those guys. They're from home. This one guy, especially Bruce Hollenbeek, he lived about a half a block from me, and we were good friends in high school. I went to the Navy and I didn't see him, but I saw him there and he was a Marine. I said, what are you guys doing here? He said, well, we're on R&R. We're about ready to go back to our unit. I said, what can I get you? Can I get you anything? Well, we'd like to have a sheet. We haven't slept under a sheet in 6 months. I said, well, I can do that. I'll meet you after the movie tonight. The hospital always put on a movie, and we went to the movie usually at night. That was the entertainment. Anyway, we met at the movie, saw the movie, and I gave him the sheet. And he said, by the way, Robin, we're leaving first thing in the morning. We're going back to our unit. And I said, oh, that's great. I said, when we get through this war, let's all meet at the drugstore, at the soda fountain. I said, let's meet there and have a cold Coke after the war. And Bruce looked at me and he said, Robin, I'm not going to make it. I said, Bruce, don't talk like that. I said, yes, you are. He said, no, Robin, I'm not going to make it. I looked at him and I said, well, God bless you. Shook his hand, turned around and walked off. He was killed 4 days before his 19th birthday. That's part of war. War is terrible. They shouldn't have wars. We ought to be able to figure out something not to have wars. We were there for a year on Guadalcanal, and we were getting so far behind the front lines that they said, we're going to close your unit. And we all had orders to go aboard ship for the invasion of Japan. We were sleeping in tents, and some guy came along and said, wake up, the war's over. Nearly 4 years since the attack on Pearl Harbor, Japan was finally defeated to the point of unconditional surrender. The war was over, and Robin was going home. Over 75 years later, the events of the Second World War continued to have a profound effect on Robin, particularly the memory of those who laid everything on the line. That's another reason why I felt honored to come to this. My brother was a prisoner of war for about 6 months. He was in the army. He was captured in the Battle of the Bulge. So that's one reason why I'm here today. I want to honor him and Bruce. I just think it's a good thing to give something to your country. I've never regretted being in the service. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of my service and proud of my country.